Good morning, YouTube. It is Friday, my favorite day of the week. It's also my second to last day of school. We have one more day. We'll be back on Monday to clean up our classrooms and check out. This is my last day of final exams, so I've got my very last class today, and then fortunately it kind of works out because the period after the exam, I actually have the ability to start grading them, so hopefully I can get that done so I don't have a lot of work over the weekend. So in this video, I want to catch you up on a few things. Number one, I want to tell you what I'm teaching next year. Number two, I want to show you some of the artifacts for my AP chemistry students from their end of year project. And then finally, I want to talk about my summer to-do list. So there's a lot to catch you up on. I'm going to get ready for my last exam, but I'll be sure to check in with you guys after the exam today. Just finished my last final exam of the school year, so the only thing left to do is grade. Unfortunately, I did have a couple of students that had to stay for some extra time, so I wasn't able to actually start grading the assessments, but that's okay. I can do it this weekend. I definitely don't have any lesson planning to do this weekend. It's amazing, during the school year, I just feel like I'm going all the time, and then all of a sudden the workload just completely drops off. And so that's definitely helping me in terms of just being able to think more about what do I want to do for next year. I already started, as you saw, taking down my bulletin board, so that's all set. I took my plants home. I have a couple more. I have another plant to take home actually for the summertime. And so pretty much everything's looking good. I did, if you noticed too, take down all those neon pieces of equipment because I didn't love them all year. Okay, they were cute, but wasn't a huge fan. So I want to think of some other things that I can do along that wall back there. But that's what the summer's for. I can think and reflect. And of course I'll do a classroom setup or something probably before school starts. But overall, I am so excited to start my summer. I am feeling very tired, but happy. This year has been kind of different in that students have shown a little bit more appreciation. Today, for example, I got a whole bunch of cards from students, and every once in a while at the end of the school year, I get some sort of note of appreciation or a thank you. It doesn't happen very often. But this year I've had quite a few more cards and notes just saying thank you for everything that I've done this year, that they've learned a lot from me, and that means so much to me. Those are things that I hold on to, and that's something that when I have a really crappy day, I open up my file of cards and things that students have written me, and it just makes me feel so much better. I have really made a difference in a lot of different students' lives. And, I hope that if you get cards and stuff from your kids that you definitely hold on to those, because those are things that can help let you know that you're in the right place and you're doing the best that you can and you are making a difference. So there were 3 things that I wanted to talk to you about. The first was about what I'm teaching next year. So it is confirmed that I am teaching 3 sections of AP, and I have 1 section of honors chemistry. So I am very excited. I'm happy to see that the AP sections have increased. I know that this year I think a lot of students were hesitant about taking AP because they weren't sure what was going to happen with the pandemic, if they were going to have to learn the content virtually. And that just made it so difficult for the kids. And so I'm glad that the sections are up next year. I'm happy to be back in honors. Honors really is kind of more like a feeding ground for the AP class. So I really wanted to teach honors again because I want to kind of have an idea of what's being taught in honors so that when my AP kids come in, I can give them a very similar experience and just be able to scaffold when needed. So I am happy to be back in the honors game. Of course, I will miss my CP students very much. I think that this is a necessary change so that I can be the best AP chemistry teacher that I can be. The second thing I wanted to talk to you about is some of the artifacts for my students. They submitted their final projects and they did such a great job. I actually just heard from Chemagination a couple days ago, and 2 of the 3 teams that entered the competition placed as finalists. So I am so proud of them. I'm so happy for them. So that makes me feel good because this was really the first time I've done Chemagination, and it's pretty challenging. I mean, it is a challenging thing to do with students, but the teams that submitted, they definitely took it in stride and they did a great job. And I'm just so happy that they're finalists. And as I kind of learn more about the program and what the judges are looking for, I think I'll only get better in terms of being able to guide the students and help them. I also just finished grading all of the AP projects, and so I thought I would talk to you guys about those. I know I shared the Chemagination articles in a previous video, but now I want to talk to you about the other things. So recall, my students had a choice board. They had the ability to kind of choose what they wanted to do. The Chemagination was a choice, and then they also had choices for learning about content like organic chemistry and nuclear chemistry. I had quite a few kids choose to engage with that, so I really didn't have anything to necessarily grade besides their summary and problem notebooks. And then also I did take a look at their quiz grade. The quiz was weighted 50% of the project grade, so that was really easy. Really didn't have much to do. But what I now need to talk to you guys about is the book review that the students did, the careers in science, and then the podcast episodes that my students created. So we didn't have as many students doing the podcast. I did have 2 groups do that. Besides the students actually creating a podcast, they also had to take time and create like a basically podcast analysis sheet. They had to complete this in order to have an idea of like what they could do potentially on their podcast. And this was more of like their introductory activity, especially if they're not maybe somebody who listens to podcasts very often. So this sheet looked something like this. And basically the students had to complete this. It's a podcast analysis sheet, and they had to basically, listen to a couple of podcast episodes. The podcast that I chose, like I told you guys in my last video, was Chemistry for Your Life. They had to listen to 2 podcast episodes and then complete these sheets. So the podcast episodes are like around 45 minutes long, so they had to complete 2 each, just to again give them an idea of like some things that they could talk about. And then one team in particular, they actually interviewed a bunch of members of their class about a specific phenomenon, which I thought was so cool. So my students really had a great time. Everybody was getting involved with it. One of my other students did a chemistry in chemistry podcast. That's always something that I say to my students when my students are acting silly and they're kind of like flirtatious. I'll be like, oh, there's chemistry in chemistry. And so that's what they titled their podcast. So that was kind of fun. They were talking about basically like the feelings that we experience and the chemistry that's involved in the feelings that we experience when we're in love or we're happy or we're sad. And so that was a really cool podcast to listen to. I thought that was really, really awesome. I think they did a really great job with that. The next project I want to talk about is the Careers in Science project. I had a lot of different things that students chose. I would say more often than not, the project though did include a forensic science component. A lot of students chose that. But I did have an organic chemist, I had an aerospace engineer, I had an orthopedic surgeon, but there were actually 4 students that chose to do something on forensic science, which was fine. I didn't notice too many like similarities between those 4 projects because the students really focused on different things and different things that were important to them. What I really like so much about the project is that the students have to write a CV for a scientist, and then they also have to create a screencast with Google Slides to talk about the responsibilities and roles of the scientist in their everyday duties, but also talk about a scientist that really resonated with them and kind of gives them some insight as far as, what their path might look like if they choose to go into that field. So I thought this was a fantastic project. I learned a lot. Like, I don't know a whole lot about aerospace engineering, and this student taught me so much. Like, it was so interesting and I was so engaged. Now, The students, I think, really came alive with this project. I would say overall, like the videos were very engaging. They were very enthusiastic. That aerospace engineering one, it was over, I want to say it was like 19 minutes, the video, the screencast that they were doing. They had so many slides, and it just gave me such a great like sense of satisfaction that the students found something that they were so interested in and so engaged in. And like I said, I learned a lot, and I thought, you know what, this is just a great way for the students to think about what their path might be as they kind of leave these four walls. Like, what would they possibly do once they graduate and move on to college? So I think it was an overall very successful experience for the students. The last project that I want to talk to you about is the book project. And I would say overall my students did a pretty good job with this. Any student that chose to do this, it was overall okay. Now, I say that with some hesitation because I think for some of the students, it was obvious that they just didn't put a whole lot of effort in. They were reading like large swaths of pages, and then like there really wasn't a whole lot to their notes. But, you know, the students that earned really good grades on this were the ones that had a variety of different types of notes and pictures and images and reflections. So I showed you guys this, but basically this is what it looked like. And these pink highlights are actually me grading it, kind of just looking for the science. But I just wanted to kind of show you that a lot of the students chose to use like images. And then I showed you the prompts, but this is again a ChemEd blog post, and I can share it down below. But what I really love so much about this is that the students had different ways to express their understanding and think about like what they're reading. And this particular book, the student actually read, I'll tell you, the Stuff Matters book, Stuff Matters, Exploring the Marvelous Materials That Shape Our Man-Made World. That's some like challenging reading. Like that's not super easy to read. And the student just did such a fantastic job including images and reflecting on so much of the science that was involved. And then I absolutely loved the book reviews because the book reviews allowed me to kind of see, like, do they really understand what the book was trying to convey? It was an overall summary of what they read and then a critique of what they read, which I love so much. I felt like they really did a nice job of critiquing things. And for the books that I personally have read, I'm like, wow, I was thinking the exact same thing. So I thought it was really nice that the students not only like was reading the book, taking notes on the book, expressing their thoughts on the content of the book, but then really spending time critiquing it and thinking about how the book could have been improved. Another year down the books, hard to believe it. Now we just have summer. And as far as the things that I'm planning to do this summer, I have a lot, but at the top of my list is relaxing and finding some good books to read this summer. So if you have any suggestions, if there's things that you're reading that you love, that you think would help me, please leave a comment down below. What are you reading this summer? I'd love to know. But then of course I have plans. I'll be working with the Teacher Prep Room again. If you're not sure what the Teacher Prep Room is, basically my colleague Bethany and I, we created a whole bunch of amazing courses to help teachers teach in person and virtually. These are amazing courses that you have access to. All of the resources, you could simply just download them, print them, and it's just a wonderful experience. We spent a lot of time in the Facebook group. I'm offering office hours this summer, so you can actually interact one-on-one with me. So I'm very excited to be working with any new Teacher Prep Room educators. If you're interested, I'll post a link below. I also have some really exciting things that I'm doing to my store, some new products that I'm gonna be promoting, and I just can't wait to share it all with you guys. A lot of revisions are coming and I'm just so excited. So that's really at the top of my summer to-do list. So I think that's it for me. I want to thank you so much for supporting me throughout this school year. As I've always done, I will post a few videos here and there in the summer. My goal is to post at least 2 a month. So I'll probably post 2 videos in July and 2 videos in August. But you bet I will be back in September, and maybe I'll see you at the Teacher Prep Room. Thank you so much for watching, and have an amazing summer.